Reportable diseases are diseases that must be reported to your regulatory authorities if you or any food workers have been diagnosed with it. Hepatitis A, typhoid fever, salmonella, norovirus, shigella, E. coli. In order to return to work, you must have a doctor's note for hepatitis A, typhoid fever, and salmonella. Typhoid fever and typhoid fever and hepatitis A are in the highest risk category, even if the food workers do not have any symptoms. When can a worker return back to work if diagnosed with any one of these diseases? A worker diagnosed with E. coli will need to be asymptomatic for 7 days. A worker with norovirus will need to be asymptomatic for 48 hours. A food worker with Shigella will need to be asymptomatic for 7 days. A coworker with hepatitis A must have jaundice for 7 days or have other symptoms without jaundice for 14 days. A worker with typhoid fever must have a doctor's notes, and a food worker with salmonella must be asymptomatic for more than 30 days. All workers should be restricted until regulatory authority gives the approval for workers to return. If you're a facility with a highly susceptible population, exclude asymptomatic workers with norovirus, Shigella, and E. coli. Restrict asymptomatic workers diagnosed with salmonella. If you're a facility that serves the general public, restrict workers diagnosed with norovirus, Shigella, E. coli, and salmonella. If you're an employee, you must report to your employer if you have been diagnosed with the norovirus, hepatitis A, Shigella, E. coli, and typhoid fever. Salmonella is not likely to spread before symptoms appear, so it's not something you must report to an employer. Keep in mind, a worker immune to hepatitis A does not need to be restricted. It's important that all food workers wash their hands before handling food and in between switching tasks in order to prevent the spread of germs. Did you know that the FDA approves bare hand contact with ready to eat foods? But there are a few things you must meet in order to do so. Employees must not be serving an HSP with ready to eat foods. Employers must maintain a written bare hair contact policy and procedures booklet. Maintain documentation of hand washing and bare maintain documentation of hand washing and bare hand contact training for employees. Documented corrected violations for health inspectors to see. Employees must take proper precaution before bare hair. Employees must also take proper precaution before bare hand contact. If your facility has not been approved for bare hair contact, then food workers should be handling food with single use disposable gloves. A worker with an infected wound on hands and wrists must have a wound cover with a double barrier. First barrier must be impermeable or waterproof cover, and second barrier a single-use glove which can be worn no more than 4 hours. Now, let's get back to this hand washing. This is the number one way to prevent or slow down the spread of pathogens. Proper hand washing should take at least 20 seconds. Wet hands with warm water. The water should be at least 85 degrees Fahrenheit. Apply soap to wet hands. Scrub hands, wrists, and lower arms. Rinse hands and arms under running water. Dry hands and arms with a warm air dryer or disposable paper towel. As a food safety manager, you need to make sure all hand sinks have four things: 1. Warm running water. 2. Soap. 3. Paper towel or a hand dryer. As a food safety manager, you need to make sure all hand sinks have four things: one, warm running water; two, soap; three, paper towel or an hand hair dryer; three, paper towel or an air dryer; three, paper towel or an air three, paper towel or an air dryer; four, clean four. Four, a clear sign at all hand sinks. Okay, let me do that over. As a food safety manager, you need to make sure all hand sinks have four things: one, warm running water; two, soap; three, paper towel or an air dryer; four, a clear sign at all hand sinks reminding workers to wash their hands. Notice I said all hand sinks. Only wash your hands at the designated area for hand washing to help avoid the spread of germs. When should you wash your hands? Here are a few examples of when to wash your hands: after using the restroom, after eating or drinking, after using chemicals, after taking a break, after using tobacco products, after taking out the garbage, after touching skin, clothing, hair, or any items on a body, after touching any animals, and before putting on single use gloves. Now, I know this seems like a lot, but you will find, now I know this seems like a lot, but you will be fine as long as you remember to always wash hands when switching tasks. Okay, it's time to test your knowledge. A food worker with an infected wound must be restricted. A. No, not if reported. B. Yes, unless the wound is properly bandaged with a double barrier. C. No, unless the food worker has on single use gloves. D. All of the above. B. Any wound on a hand or arm must be covered with the double barrier. First barrier must be an impermeable or waterproof cover. Second barrier must be a single use glove over the impermeable cover. A food worker with jaundice must be excluded from work until A. The food worker has no jaundice for 7 days. B. The food worker has a doctor's note stating they can go back to work. C. Never had jaundice, but other symptoms. C. Never had jaundice, but other symptoms for at least 14 days. D. All of the above. D. All of the above is correct. Asymptomatic carriers are less likely to spread disease than someone who has symptoms. True or false? The answer is A. True. If a food worker has diarrhea and does not clean it up completely, and it spreads to the toilet handle or bathroom stall lock, you get the point. In this case, proper hand washing could be effective. But what if that person forgets to turn the faucet off with paper towel or walks out the bathroom grabbing the door handle or forgetting to wash their hands before handling ready to eat foods? This will cause the illness to spread not only to staff, but to customers as well. Remember the fecal oral rule. A food worker with jaundice must be excluded from work until A. The food worker has no jaundice for 7 days. Oh, I have to get that out. Okay. HSP means A. How supply is placed. B. Hospital situations prepare. C. Highly susceptible population. D. All of the above. C. HSP means highly susceptible population. If diagnosed with salmonella, the food worker must be ready. Okay. If diagnosed with salmonella, the food worker must be asymptomatic for how many days before returning to work? A, 14 days, B, 7 days, C, 30 days, D, all of the above. C, 30 days is correct. Shigella and E. coli, you must be asymptomatic for 7 days. If diagnosed with norovirus, the food worker must be asymptomatic for how many hours before returning to work? A, 48 hours, B, 24 hours, C, 36 hours, D, all of the above. A, you must be asymptomatic for 48 hours before you can return to work if you are diagnosed with the norovirus. A food worker states they have been exposed to someone with norovirus. Do you report this to the regulatory authority? A, yes. B, no. C, only if symptoms appear. D, all of the above. C is correct. Only if the worker has had exposure and starts to present with symptoms, you can be exposed and never catch it. Okay. C is correct. Only if the worker has had exposure and starts to present with symptoms. You can be you can be exposed and never catch anything. For example, someone immune to Hep A would probably never be able to catch. Okay. For example, someone with Hep A is immune to Hep A. So even though they may have been exposed to somebody with Hep A, they will not catch it. So I hope that that makes sense. Please, check out these videos below for more information and for more quizzes. And thank you for tuning in to Nurse Nikki's Coconut Cakes. Remember, all the flavor minus the frosting.